Hey, how's it going, guys? Mr. Boss for the win here, and in today's Red Dead Redemption 2 video, we're going to be taking a look at some really awesome findings that never made its way into the final version of the game that we could see as future DLC content or might just never appear again. So as I mentioned earlier, a lot of data miners have been able to sort of go into the files of Red Dead Redemption 2 and find out a lot of this information, and I will leave links to all my sources in the description. A lot of it's coming from the RDR2 beta hunt thread, and a couple of individuals over there have been able to find a lot of really cool things that we've never seen so far in game. And I want to discuss some of those right now. So let's begin with the first thing today, and that was a cut bank robbery featuring Arthur and John. Now, this information is coming from a user Videotech UK. Again, I will leave a link to his page in the description. He posts a lot of cool stuff, including some Red Dead Redemption 2 stuff that we won't get to in this video. So check that out if you are interested. These are some of the lines of dialogues that John can say to Arthur regarding that heist mission.
Guess the bank ain't going nowhere. Nah, I'm heading back. You said a bank job. Nah, I've had enough of this. What happened to the bank job?
All right, so how cool was that? It gives us a couple of details there. The first is that this clearly would have taken place during the main story, because that's John Marston talking to Arthur Morgan. The second is that it was going to be a bank robbery. Now, I am actually kind of surprised that there weren't as many bank robberies in the main story and as just side quests that you could do as there were. I know there was the bonus bank robbery mission that you could do at Rhodes if you owned the Ultimate Edition that featured like Uncle and Charles. And then I know there was the main one you did in Valentine as a part of the quest in Chapter 3. And then, of course, the Saint Denis bank heist in Chapter 4. But that was pretty much it. So I wonder how Arthur and John were going to pull this off. Now, I imagine the reason Rockstar cut this is because, number one, it just didn't fit in the storyline, which could have easily made sense. To me, I think the most obvious thing is during the main part of the story, John and Arthur don't have the best relationship, so why would they go on a bank robbery together? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. They also decided to rob a train, so maybe that's the mission that replaced it, the one that was going through Scarlet Meadows, that Mary Beth actually got some information on. So it could have just easily have been replaced, or number two, it just might not have made sense. So they decided not to include it. Remember, Rockstar has actually come out and said that they had to cut like 5 hours worth of content from RDR2, so maybe this was a big part of it. So that's the first thing we're going to be looking at today. The second thing we're going to be looking at today is the ability to accept the ladies of the night or the prostitutes. So for Arthur and John, if you're approached by a lady of the night in the saloon, the only thing you can do is like decline, which is like the polite response, and then reject, which is the negative response. So in both scenarios, you say no. Well, apparently there was an option to say yes. So I wonder if there was a cut prostitute feature from Red Dead Redemption 2. What I'll do right now is let you take a listen to some audio dialogue coming from the ladies of the night, sort of implying that Arthur or John had said yes. And they would say, like, follow me, or you want to get to know me a little bit better. Take a listen to these short samples right now.
If you'll follow me.
Why don't we get to know each other better?
So that is the response that you would have heard if you had actually accepted them, which is interesting because as it currently stands, there's no sort of romance option like that. Arthur can't get a girlfriend, John can't cheat on Abigail per se. And I wonder if Rockstar did this because it just didn't fit the theme of Red Dead Redemption 2. Like, John's too busy being a family man. Arthur has way busy things to worry about and might still have feelings for, obviously, Mary Linton and maybe even Isaac and Eliza, who he actually mentions later on in the story. So that's kind of the only reason I could see that not being included. I can't imagine it was for anything else. I mean, GTA 5 had some pretty graphic stuff like that, so I can't imagine Rockstar would have thought it was, too extreme to add in the game. It certainly would fit the time. I mean, that was something that was very common in 1899 to engage in activities like that. So that was an interesting feature that didn't make its way into the final version of the game. Another interesting feature was the aspect of fame. So one of the parts of Red Dead Redemption 2 that you have to balance is your honor. And this affects, how people interact with you. It also changes some of the things you can get in the game. Well, apparently fame was going to be a big part of the game, how well known Arthur was. Here's another audio dialogue of an NPC talking about Arthur.
That's one of Dutch's boys. Somebody gonna get lead poisoning.
So as you heard there, they immediately knew who Arthur was, that he was a part of the Vanderlyn gang. So I would imagine if you had a high fame level, if you would go into town, people like that would notice you. You also might become wanted more easier. And if you had a low fame level, people wouldn't notice you and you wouldn't become wanted as easier. I'm sure it would also come with some additional perks too, like for example, you might get free items at a shop or at the saloon. Either way, that would have been pretty cool. The only problem with that is how would you balance it? I guess you would become more infamous or famous if you, committed world-renowned acts or heists. And if you just laid low and started hunting in the woods for a couple of days, maybe your fame would go down. So that would have been cool if Rockstar added that, but I guess they figured it would be too much balancing between honor and all the other things you've got going on in the game. The next is a beta version of the map that has actually been found. So this was posted on the Red Dead beta hunt thread, and you guys can see there that the original version of the Red Dead Redemption 2 map was not going to feature New Austin. So it looks like the desert area was a very late addition. It also looks like there is a ton more mountain area to explore in the Grizzlies and in Amberino. And another thing that I noticed is that the island of Guarma was not called Guarma, but called Guama. Guama. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. And then the area of Saint Denis is a lot more swampy and is called New Bordeaux instead of Saint Denis. So that's a beta map that can actually be found in game. That's pretty cool. Another individual found this HD photo of the gang right here. This is the same one that can be found in Pearson's shop, but this time it's in full HD. Sort of going from left to right, on the top of the wagon, you can see Bill Williamson, Arthur Morgan, you can see John Marston, Hosea Pearson, and then on the ground, you've got Dutch. On his right, you've got Miss Grimshaw, and on his left, you've got Abigail, apparently holding baby Jack Marston. So that's pretty cool right there. That is, again, an HD photograph of the gang sort of before our story begins. You can see they're in the desert there. Where they are, I have no idea. Probably somewhere west of Blackwater before our story actually begins. Probably a long time before it begins because Jack is like an infant in that photo. So maybe 3 or 4 years ago. That's pretty cool. Now, the last two things we're going to be talking about comes from a user, DeReal Bandicoot, on Twitter. We covered something that he actually stumbled upon a little bit earlier, that photo of Gavin, which turned out to be pretty cool. One of the things that he has discovered from digging into the files is that apparently players like Arthur and John originally had the option to remove all of their clothing except their underwear. So if you wanted to run around like crazy Trevor Phillips in GTA 5 only in your underpants, you could have, but it looks like Rockstar ended up removing that, at a minimum making you wear basically a full set of clothing, like a shirt and trousers, stuff like that. So there's really a never point in time where you'll be without clothing. But in the beta version of Red Dead Redemption 2, apparently you could run around in your underwear if you wanted to, which would have sort of been pretty funny. And the last one, which is a big one, apparently there was going to be more than one protagonist, or at least that's how it looked like in the files. He says, in the RDR2 files, John Marston is player 3, and Arthur Morgan is player 0. Who the other protagonists were is your guess as much as mine. So that means there would be protagonist 1 and 2. Now, I don't know if it's going in order there, like Arthur Morgan is player 0 because he's the first protagonist that you play, and John is the final one because he is the third. So who would the two in the middle be? I know there was this crazy rumor going around that you were supposed to play as Dutch if you ended the game with bad honor, and John Marston if you ended the game with good honor. But I find that to be a little bit suspicious, so I'm not sure how that would work. Either way, let me know in the comments down below, number one, not only what you thought of everything we discussed in this video today, but number two, who do you think those other protagonists could have been? Do you think it was something simple like a side mission or quest? Maybe when Arthur was almost killed by the O'Driscolls. You would play as like Sadie Adler for a mission or two. That would have been pretty awesome. Let me know your thoughts, opinions, and more in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you guys down there. If you guys did go to enjoy this video, though, a like rating would, of course, be awesome. And be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are new. You want to stay up to date on all the latest Red Dead Redemption 2 and GTA videos that I'm doing here on my channel. And be sure to ring that notification bell as well. Sometimes YouTube just doesn't work, and if you ring that bell, you'll always be guaranteed to be notified when new videos arrive. But of course, as always, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.